What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to analyze the markets as usual with DB. This time we have a special guest, Rego, and we're going to be hosting it live on stream in WG now. Let's get into it. We had these lows painted here before this pop up into the weekend, and then we had that weekend sort of flush out. It's been so long since I seen like a weekend scam dump like this, and I was bidding literally at the lower end here at 71.6. I think that's what made me switch my opinion on things, and I really had some poor execution, I gotta admit. I did not expect this deviation below. Needless to say, we defended some good lows here. So these wick lows were defended ever so slightly. And I mean, we printed this inverse head and shoulder on the lower time frame here. We even compressed within this little wedge sort of pattern here that, I mean, is a clear reversal. And we broke out of that level, and I even fucking painted it just beautifully. Needless to say, we pushed up to my entry. I ended up closing slightly in a loss and flipped short there as well. Because I assumed the rejection toward that 70.7 region and the 69.5 is where I want to get long. But we talked in each and every stream, all my analysis. This 69.5 level was that level that needed to get flipped. We saw some rough terrain around that level, and we never really got that clean retest after that impulse candle out of this level. We're at the most recent highs painted in price. So these highs that were painted here at 76K are really the last level standing before we could start to push into this 78K region of supply up above. And then, I mean, we have that 80K psychological level of resistance, which would be directly above these highs here that were painted before the continuation and down move down into this 60K region. And then we have the structure low here that held before the break. So we have this low held before the structure and range was painted here. And then we eventually rejected that level. So these are clear levels for me to react on. I think you could even look for swing shorts at around these levels that we are coming into test. If we are to reject in the market and BTCD is to reject with BTC and alts together, alts could get wrecked. And that would be a lot better of a short than BTC would in terms of percentage of value. I kind of want you to pull up that BTCD chart here. It's been quite some time since we've seen significant movement on that chart, and I want to hear your analysis on that.
Yeah, so I like your levels. I like your analysis. And I think before discussing Bitcoin dominance, it is very important to understand where we stand with BTC, right? In my view, we are going or we are grinding into the upper end of this channel here, which BTC has been respecting as of now. You can call it whatever you want, right? It doesn't have to be a bear flag. It's just a range that it has been respecting, a diagonal range it has been respecting. And we're moving into the upper part of this range. And one thing that we have to understand as well is that today is the Sailor's last day that he's bidding before paying dividends out, right? So he could be having a break for a few days, maybe a couple of weeks. And this is aligning pretty well with this area. I'm not saying that Sailor has been the only one lifting the market up. Absolutely not. If you look at DXY, it has been dropping. Stocks have been very strong. So naturally, there's more purchasing power in such an environment, right? But we're coming into a pretty big zone where I wouldn't be interested in pushing too much on the long side. So there's a pretty big possibility that BTC can reject going into the 75, 76, maybe up to the 78K zone, right? And looking at Bitcoin dominance, I think, is very, very important because I personally think that it's been chopping around for a while. But if you look at the 3-day, I think it looks very interesting because we do have a 3-day bullish divergence here, a 3 drive actually. If you look at the wood spot, it's not exactly from an oversold zone, but I don't expect Bitcoin dominance to go to an oversold zone in a macro downtrend, in a bear market. That's not very realistic. But we are flipping a pretty big trend, and the next 3-day candle is coming, candle close is coming up tomorrow. If you look at the RSI as well, we're breaking above a trend line. We successfully retested it, and we could possibly be going towards range highs. So I would keep an eye on this and BTC at range highs. And as you said, if these two things align, if we do get a rejection from BTC from these range highs, and this actually confirms this breakout, I think alts could suffer a bit more than BTC, and yeah, respectively, that would be the better shorts. Overall, as I said, I tried a short a bit earlier on Sol, a bit higher on a 1 hour, 2 hour bearish divergence because I wasn't as interested in shorting BTC given Bitcoin dominance and given the fact that Sailor is still buying massively today. So two things to keep an eye on. Aligns very well with USDT dominance. We've been discussing this. Market may have appeared choppy, but I think it is respecting levels pretty nicely, regardless of headlines. Discussed this on stream a bit earlier today, but to have this on the channel as well. Basically, we have a level here as well. Seems like I somehow deleted that a bit earlier.
Hello. Yo, what's going on, Rego? What's up, Rob? What's up, DB?
Hey, man.
What's up, chat? Sorry for interrupting. No, you're good.
I just had one more thing and then I'm done. So we basically moved into this mid-range for USDT dominance, right? As BTC was grinding up towards these range highs, so wouldn't push too much on the long side here. And I explained it a bit earlier here. If we lose this mid-range, we're probably going for range lows and BTC closer to 80K. But for now, we are moving in this very, very small range for USDT dominance. As you can see here, we've been rejecting of this area here, which was good for longs. Been rejecting, we've been holding support in this area here, which was good for shorts, right? So naturally, if you go to support levels for USDT dominance, you want to look more for shorts, and if you're at resistance zones, you want to look for longs. So all things considered, I think today it made a bit more sense to short. I saw you took a short, so you did that from a very logical level. So we'll see how this unfolds. On lower time frames, you can either wait for this zone here to break down or for this zone to be flipped, and then you have more directional bias for a swing. As of now, we're in a very, very tight area here that you can navigate the market on for scalps just by using this index. And all of this, as I said, will be very, very important if Bitcoin dominance actually breaks out, because that's will basically tell you if it's better to focus on BTC or it's better to focus on altcoins. So that's what I pretty much had for the crypto market.
Yeah, I like that analysis a lot on BTCD. I don't think it's talked about enough, but that's also because of the crab type of price action we see on it. Hasn't made any significant movements. It's a very different than years ago when I was using that in my Confluence. But eventually it's going to make a move, and I think it's good to be prepared for that. I am getting good short signals on alts. I don't want to say good, but I'm getting short signals on alts as well right now. And, you know, in the next 24 hours, 48 hours, we could see some significant moves on them. Rego, my boy, new father in town. What's going on?
We're cooking, but we're tired. But nonetheless, market's hot, man. Market's really hot, and it's been a lot of fun to look at over the past couple of days. I mean, I haven't been able to catch as much as I'd like, but we've caught a couple moves, right? But like, you know, I'm in agreement with you guys. We're in some very, very interesting levels of supply, and you know, time to pay attention for potential rejections, and we take it from there. I mean, you guys obviously know about STRC going absolutely bananas, right? Over the past few days, the amount of BTC being pledged here is quite a bit, right? So the spot demand is quite organic. It's not like we're not seeing the signs that we'd like to see, especially you know when we're looking for momentum in terms of like Coinbase spot premium, a true raw organic spot demand, and more importantly, you know, negative funding that you know implies that maybe shorts are a bit you know over maybe on the wrong side here, at least in the immediate short term. Because they're paying to have this position open right in the face of quite a relentless spot demand. I mean, the volume's there to support it. Rising prices, rising volume, lower volume on rejection. So you know, we're kind of seeing some pretty nice stuff here. I can't complain. I think a lot of the things that we're seeing is healthy. You know, Bitcoin dominance stealing the show once again, starting to break into 60%, which we've been stuck in since I want to say since August of last year, right? So we're starting to see the signs there that could show a bit more of an organic move. Again, Bitcoin leads the outperformance, especially when we consider majors like Solana, ETH, maybe a few others. So it's a step in a good direction. It suggests more of a healthy organic move. It doesn't necessarily mean, that like, oh my God, we found the bottom here, but like it seems like a potential strong bearish retest could be on the horizon. But really I'm watching 76,000, 78,000 primarily for BTC, and for ETH I'm looking more at 2259 to about 2348. I'm worried we might fall back into there, and that's really what I'm looking at. And we can expect rejection on something like ETH all the way into 2450. So that's kind of like what I'm looking at. And yeah, but besides that, I mean, the market's made a pretty organic, strong move. News has been, not necessarily positive, and that's something to take note of. Is bad news having an immediate effect, but over the longer time frame, it kind of brushes it off, and we've seen that pretty much since the original conflict began at the end of March, and I'm sorry, the beginning of March. So, I like to say that there's a lot of positives here, but I don't want to get too crazy, right? We're at some pretty interesting levels, local highs on BTC back in March. Like this is where we're at right now, right? So a big move can be made here, but at the same time, I'm cautious. I'm cautious, and rightfully so, right? There's nothing wrong with buying back in a bit higher, but for now, I like what I see. I don't know about you guys. I joined the stream a bit late there, but that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, no, that's the beauty of this market. It's the beauty of everything is that there's always another plan to be had, and I think that you say it pretty well there. You're looking to either purchase things on a pullback or see acceptance below for ETH is not what we want to see at around that region as well. For ETH, I want to point out that we did sweep these highs that drove us into the most recent higher low painted in price. I mean, I would say this is the most extreme retest that we've had from that most recent high. I mean, obviously in price. Before we reversed and we closed below. So this is an SFP right here in price after a 25% move up in ETH from a range that we've been trading in since the end of January is when we first pushed into this range. And I mean, this is like a 38% range from the lows to the highs right now. And we swept that and we closed below. So this is the most logical point for a rejection. It doesn't mean that we'll reject straight from this point. You could put your invalidation directly above the highs and it'd be good for the lows or even a higher low retest into this impulsive candle. That's just confluence for you to maybe search for one. I like your levels that if we were to push into the mid 2400s, that would be a means for rejection. I think that there's good confluence to believe that a deviation is possible at the most current levels that we're at right now. So that's what I'm watching for currently. As far as a retest for ETH, I really like that 2280 region that you just kind of clarified on. If we accept below that region, I'm not going to really like ETH as much. And I think that would be cause for continuation lower, especially if we were to reject sort of heavy here into this region and then we never get follow through from it. That wouldn't be the most ideal reaction. So from a long perspective, if you were to be patient and you were looking for opportunities for longs, I wouldn't shy away from the 2280 region. I think that that's a lot, smart of a region to get long, obviously, if you were to look from the most current prices. Sorry, am I cutting someone off? Yeah.
I think it was just a bit of feedback.
So I think that from the daily open to where price reacted, I assume that price reacted on something today. Is it PPI was today? I believe PPI was today. So that's probably the reason that we have this 4-hour candle here. We have the highs, we have the lows. People are going to be taking their longs with their invalidation below the lows, just like people are going to be taking their shorts with their invalidation above the highs. And these consolidations are going to break towards one side. Is there going to be a reaction after that reverses that initial move? That's that hasn't been seen yet because the price hasn't moved in that direction yet. So I am going to look for how price reacts, if it wants to reach the lows first or if it wants to reach the high end of this most recent 4-hour candle, and then I'll react from there. We just opened this 4-hour candle. We're rejecting the daily open in price. We printed that SFP on the daily. So I just kind of want to see what price is going to do from here. I don't know if you guys are under the same assumption when it comes to immediate sort of price action. I know you guys are more or less higher time frame traders. I like to look at intraday perspective a lot of the times, especially in these consolidations, because from these moves of consolidation here on the lower time frame, if you do catch the right move on the middle end, like let's say if you played around the open here at 33.70, if you had your invalidation above this high, you're already starting to catch the move. You can move your invalidations even, and you could potentially catch the next move after. That's why I like playing these lower time frame areas of consolidation, because they make for really easy invalidations. Granted, you could get taken out either way. I like playing in these smaller time frame levels here. Like you said, though, DB, I'm more interested in playing shorts on some of these alts rather than longs per se. I think that there's opportunity on pullbacks rather than marketing in. And I like your levels there as well, Rego.
What just before changing the topic, I think I've got something very interesting for you for Ethereum. If you want to take a look at it, just for a second.
Yeah. I got the chart pulled up. Would you like to pull up your chart?
Yeah, just for a second. So I was just looking at ETH BTC actually, and I've been talking about this for a few days with the group. So I think the higher time frame chart on ETH BTC, although it's been going down for a few months, it looks pretty good because this is a bullish flag to me, right? So eventually, I think this is going to break out, and ETH is going to outperform BTC. But whether that's going to happen from today, or we have another sweep of mid-range or range lows later this year, remains to be seen. I think if we do get these range lows at some point, I think that would be a really good area to buy some ETH on spot. But what I wanted to discuss with you, because you were pulling up that ETH chart, which was at resistance, right? And BTC is pushing into these range highs. We've seen some strength from BTC dominance, and naturally, if BTC dominance breaks out, that's going to negatively influence ETH BTC. And it kind of makes sense from a TA perspective that we could face some difficulties here for ETH BTC. We are below the 3-day 21 EMA. We are at range highs of this channel. And I believe we do have a triple bearish divergence on ETH BTC if we look at the wood spot. So there are a few signals to me that suggest a bit of caution on too aggressive longs on Ethereum, at least when it comes to swings. Like, not really talking about scalps, but at least when it comes to swings. And then if we start losing this trend here because of these divergences and all the other signals, and this starts to break down, I think ETH could undergo a certain period of uncertainty and would struggle against BTC. So I think this perfectly matches your level that you were pointing out with BTC and with Ethereum. So just something I wanted to add on top of your ETH analysis.
Would you like to pull up your chart, Rego, or you want me to?
I can share mine if you guys want. Depends what you guys want to talk about. Really, I'm looking at a number of things. Again, BTC, Sol, ETH, and Hype. Usually these are my go-tos right now. And of course, I'm watching Bitcoin dominance because I think it's probably at a point where it wants to make a crazy move. I'm of the belief that Bitcoin dominance, especially the way it's held, pretty much since we've fallen back into, like, at this point I call it a range, right? Like, what do you really call it? I've had this level identified since I don't know when. Maybe all the way back in 2022, I knew it would be a significant area to be, shuffling around. The 60% zone, it's roughly around the 2/3 of the entire industry's market cap, so it is a significant level to either break up from or break down from, right? And again, we've fallen into this level, all the way back in August, right? So we've been here for a really long time. Since then, we've seen 70, 80, even 90% drawdown on alts. We've seen 50% drawdowns from BTC's highs. And all the while, Bitcoin has managed to maintain a market cap, a market dominance of nearly 2/3 of this entire industry. So what does that really imply, right? This metric, you can't trade off this metric alone, but it is informative in the sense of, where is money going, right? Where is money going, and where is it pulling? Where is money being pulled from, right? So, when we see a 50% drawdown on BTC and dominance is rather unaffected, but we're seeing USDT dominance rising, USDC dominance rising. Like, what is that indicative of, right? It's more like that the massive outflows that we are in fact seeing are actually not coming from BTC. Yes, there are outflows. It's not that there isn't, but there are also buyers. From what I'm seeing, or at least from how I've covered these metrics over the past few months, is that most of this fallout is actually coming from alts. It's not coming from BTC. I would say the retention on BTC has actually been quite strong, which is why I assume a move from here is actually in unison with a strong move to the upside, right? Because again, you've suffered a 50% drawdown on BTC. You've pretty much maintained a two-third dominance over the entire industry, despite the drawdown that it experienced, despite the rapid gain that we've seen in stablecoin dominance, right? So that kind of tells us a bigger story of the picture, or a bigger picture of the whole story, and that's really that most of the bleeding out, most of the rush to cash is actually coming from the alt side of things. So correct me if I'm wrong, DB, or maybe you have something else to say regarding that, but that's what it looks like. And again, it's not to say that people aren't selling BTC or they're getting out, but it is more indicative of where the heavy flows are actually really coming from, and I think that's important, right? So um, yeah, that's really what I have on that. I mean, we're in a significant moment. It's time to pay attention. I mean, the potential breakout of this could be huge. You have a 200 EMA now that's kind of done going sideways down, done trending downwards, and is actually ready to curl up. So it's something to keep an eye on, because it could be the start of a something much larger. And again, the higher this goes, the more likely the downturn actually has a pretty strong and aggressive rally. So it's kind of like the birthing signs of a and I don't want to call it too soon, and I'm not calling it too soon, but what we've seen in the past is usually Bitcoin likes to lead, then that bleeds into other pairings, right? So they play a bit of a catch up game, and we could see the performance across the board today, right? We have a really strong BTC, kind of weak Ethereum, all things considered, a weak Solana, and pretty weak lower mid caps, right? So again, and again, I never said the word, you did, DB, but it's just to say, markets rotate, capital rotates, and again, if there's a strong push on Bitcoin here, or a really strong bearish retest, then I assume others will also follow suit, in the traditional way that they do. It's not to call the bottom, it's not to call 200 X's across the board, but it is to call a pretty strong relief, or stronger relief than we've typically seen. So that's what I've been watching all day today. And yeah, and of course, watching STRC just 2 days in a row start clipping 5,000 BTC at a time is pretty nuts. So all good things, better things than what we've seen in the past. And that's what I leave it at. We could take a look at hype if you want, Rob. I don't know what levels you guys have.
Yeah, no, let's take a look at hype. I like the 4150. If we break down below if we break down below that 43, I like the 4150 at that 4 hour level of demand.
I have the same level.
What like I like that because you get, I mean, it's a good level of demand. You get easy invalidation. I don't like the flat candle that opened on the 1 day yesterday. So that maybe gets swept, but I've seen a lot of these flat candles get front run and left behind. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for hype right now.
Yeah, and I have the same level. It's crazy because we managed to hit this pocket over here. When was it? Jesus, man, I'm all lost.
Oh, that's a beautiful level
Just
of
about
demand, bro. That's a
yeah,
beautiful
just
level.
about 2 weeks ago. We got a perfect, like, we didn't get full fills, but we got like half fills. And we ended up selling on the Friday deadline news, right? So pretty bummed out about that, because that is just textbook demand. That is just a textbook 4 hour demand response, and it's a strong one too. Like don't fade that's a strong move into untapped demand, right? And you know all about these, Rob. So it's doing quite well. And my guess here on hype is to bid the trend until it's no longer trending, right? And we're getting like a lot of these brief consolidations that are followed by really large expansions. So again, this leaves a lot of unfilled orders in the area, and tapping into them can usually be given some pretty decent response. It doesn't have to continue going straight up there, but it can make kind of equal highs, or even maybe a lower high, and that's more than need to consider a trade, right? So I'm with you on the 4150 zone. I think it's 4150 till about 40 77. I think that's a fair level to maybe consider your options.
Yeah, I like that. I like that 4 hour demand as well. I was trying to get long at 35.62 after that demand reacted and pushed up to 37.60. I got front ran by like 12 cents before it
Yeah,
exploded.
see, I bought into this originally, and look, I still have like my alert set here because I wanted like the remaining of my. Yeah, I was a bit late to it, so I had like 75% of my fills on the lower end of the box, and that's what I get for not like laddering in the whole way through, like on 25% clips. But again, it all doesn't matter because I sold it for peanuts, but it was a really strong level, and when something's trending, when it has really really large gaps and breakaways, brief consolidations followed by large liquidity gaps, in either direction, they usually tend to work out quite well. And Hype's one of the stronger ones, guys. It's one of the working projects that I think actually has use case, right? So it's not like it's a ghost pairing. It's I find it's growing in popularity. I don't think it's actually becoming irrelevant. So again, it's been a fun pairing to trade, and it moves. It moves like a crypto asset. I'll say that much. It trends like a crypto asset. It reaccumulates and it distributes like one. So um, truly, truly decentralized, and it's really fun when it's in its early phases, right? So yeah, I'm liking Hype. I've been watching a lot of it, and I'm always trying to find out what I can do on it, especially intraday. I don't know what you guys have for the intraday, but for me, this actually looks kind of nice. 43.20, 43.20, maybe all the way down until about 42.83, which is very aggressive, by the way. It's very aggressive, but it would
Very
be a
aggressive.
scalp. It would be a scalp. Nothing too crazy, not a swing. Just trying to get like some sort of, no, that's a bit too aggressive, but like something like this.
And just like
I mean,
target the
yeah.
highs. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Like even a bit shorter than the highs because this seems quite a strong rejection intraday. But like like getting like a deviation, locating your stop, getting your entry, at the reclaim of this, and then trying to get out at this R1 level here at 44, 60, 64. That's what I'm looking at. It would look something like this, guys. Of course, it's all hypothetical until I see the actual sweep, but it would look something like this. And your RR is really good. It's almost like a 3 to 4, or a 3 or 4 to 1. Worst case scenario, 2 to 1. So it's a fairly easy stop to recognize once it's shown. Very very easy entry or trigger to consider, and then your take profit's pretty much self-explanatory. So I would consider it a good RR trade. And then on the 4 hour, of course, we're looking for this, right? That's gonna be a level of interest for us too.
I like the if you pull up from the beginning of Hype, the 35.70 level. If you just draw a line, yeah, that top
Oh
end
yeah,
wick
yeah,
right there.
right here.
Yeah, just draw a line right there and then scroll into that daily demand that you bid up.
Oh yeah, look at that, huh?
I like that the under over sort of deviation line there. That's what I really like to look for. If we ever
Mm-hmm.
pull back into areas like that and you have confluence like a 4 hour level of demand, or I don't know, the RSI obviously will begin to get oversold into that territory and start to flick into a divergence, which I see that on the 4 hour as well. You get good confluence even at that. So when Rego says don't fade that level, that's really not a level to fade at all because you're getting super stacked up confluences. You get good invalidation to do so. And if you look in hindsight on the higher time frame, that is a fantastic flip level for Hype to react around. And to just add some sweetness into that as well. You get that rejection from February 4th onwards, and that rejection closed directly below that 35.70, and now we're starting to get closures above that level. So to anticipate a break out the current trend that we're currently breaking out of is not a terrible assumption to make, and clearly it paid off in that sense. What's up, Offset? Good to see you, brother. And I actually like that 41.50 level even more so that I scrolled out. On the 1 day there, we see that pileup of demand that happened after the retest of, the trend that we currently broke out of in retest. I know you don't have that trend pulled up on your thing, but I'll post it in the chat right now. But we broke out of that trend, retested, and we left that level of demand on the 1 day there. So if we do end up retesting that level today, it would look really nice if we were to retest it kind of swiftly.
like a ballpark. I'm not a trend line guy, but
Yeah,
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 I
no, that's
understand what you're
exactly
looking at.
it. That's
Right, what's
exactly
yeah.
it. That's exactly it. I only draw trends wherever they make sense, like to paint a high or low or to break out. I was able to catch some really nice moves on like Zcash. I mean, hype was a good anticipation. So I was able to catch some good plays just by playing trend and anticipating direction on them. Um, so that's kind of what I was just talking about there. Yeah,
Oh, look at this. Man, I missed a lot on Tau, huh? Since fuck. Man.
brother, 365 was the freaking top of that one, dude.
Yeah. I haven't been able to touch this for a while now. You see, like, it's crazy because it's demand did respond, maybe deviated, which is pretty spooky. These deviations are pretty convincing. They'll definitely shake you out of a demand pocket here. But it did respond as it should. You got your response. It's just it was a lower high and it got smacked down,
Bro, I
right? So
know. I
it's
was looking at that exact reaction. That's exactly what I was looking at the
yeah,
other day.
like the demand did its job, but it did fake you out a bit. I mean, you have to consider the wicks here, which I don't usually do anymore. I like to consider like just thick body candles. But in the past I used to reference a lot of the wicks as part of a demand pocket. So that kind of falls in line here. But nonetheless, this is still like really hard to hold on to if you have a trade expecting this. But it did respond, right? It did respond. It's just yeah, it's not good enough. And it's actually, actually, it's crazy that you brought up Tau because we're actually approaching an area that I think might have a good response,
Yeah,
and
we're
that's another
sweeping
demand
that low
pocket we
wick.
have right down here, right here. We're actually approaching it right now. The last time we ever like again, large expansion, brief consolidation, large expansion, supply overwhelms the current buyers in the area, rolls into this unfilled order block. The response is still tons of orders in the area. That's why the response is strong. Then the original supply that was rejected from gets consolidated on, pushes up, right? So now we're about to tap into this level for the second time, right? So we might actually even get a bit of a deeper stab. We know from the behavior of this that it likes to deviate underneath. So maybe we can consider something like this and we can get a response. And again, it doesn't have to be all-time highs from here. It could literally just be, you know,
294.
something like this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have too.
And that's actually I'm actually going to consider this moving in. We're going to watch this develop. I mean, it's a 4 hour chart, so maybe over the next day, let's see how this looks.
Yeah, I would say that Tao needs to make a move pretty soon out of this slow grind drop in price action. If you look at our side, we're oversold.
Yep.
We've already painted the oversold and we're already sweeping the initial oversold confirmation. So we're confirming a divergence here in price as well. And we're sweeping that low, like you just pointed out as well. I do not expect the low sweep to be it, which is the reason why I like your demand below. Probably what that 238 region, 238.
This one, yeah, it's going to be between 243 and 229. So it's rather large. It's large. So obviously you size appropriately, right? Like if you see, for example, oh, I have a 5% range to fill in. Like obviously you size appropriately, right? You size what reflects your usual risk tolerance. So it's like if it's a 5% gap, you got to allow yourself, um, you got to fraction your size so that it reflects whatever risk tolerance you have on your overall portfolio. So that is risk management. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it's just to say like it's a pretty wide price gap, right? It's pretty wide. I'm pretty sure we can all agree. But yeah, I mean, I'd be looking at this level too. I mean, we're right here right now, and again, like you said, you have a very very oversold volume oscillator. It's getting quite exhausted, right? So again, maybe we could see some consolidation,
Wow.
maybe a couple shoves beneath the level, which might scare people. But again, if you reclaim this, you pop above. I think you got a really nice, you know, you got a really nice move. Again, it doesn't have to come back to these highs here. It could just come back here, and you have a really strong you get somewhere in the middle of this box there. We're talking like a 23% move, right? So it's quite volatile, all things considered. But that's
Yeah.
what I'm looking at.
Yeah, no, I
No,
like
no, no
that.
fundamentals, no nothing. Just straight technical. From a straight technical perspective, you're getting demand pockets, you're getting refills, and again, it's not like we know. It's not like we don't know that the area is strong because on the first possible retest of the area, it actually resulted in surpassing these highs or whatever price we're currently trading at. So again, um, let's see how it reacts again. Let's see how it reacts. It might actually be a good trade here.
As we talk about
But
Tao, like I just got a trigger for a long two there as well. It could just be the divergence, and we are approaching the sweep. It is a loose invalidation play, but literally as we're talking, it came out. So I got a trigger there to. I took a little bit there, Baron. I'm not gonna say to go super heavy because it is a little bit of a looser stop, and the stop goes into the region where we'd want to bid. Which is a problem, but you do have a pivot there as well, which is nice.
Yeah, I have an S3 mean reversion level. It's right in confluence with the upper end of this demand box, and my oscillator is completely exhausted. So it's all aligned to actually have a short-term relief response. It could look something like this. It could look something like this.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Keep that on your chart. Keep that on your chart, that drawing that you had. I want to see how that plays out in the next few hours, and if it plays out, it'd be a nice hindsight.
Look for something like this, and maybe rolls back over.
Yeah, I like that.
Maybe tries to fetch in a bit deeper here, and if it's strong response from demand, it'll look something like this.
That signal on Tau literally came as Rego was talking about it, so it lines in well. It's not all the confluences he's using, so it adds on to the confluences that he's already included. So when you add those confluences together, you see what's happening on BTC. We're consolidating at a level where we could potentially take the current highs out. Then you should get a good reaction to Tau. Granted, it's been a little bit more crabby than most. And I'll kind of just point out here, it's been crabbier than most. We are approaching these lows. I don't need to go too much more into depth because Rego literally just explained the beautiful area to buy into it. And I would go really light if you are going to play here, or look to scale in some bids. So I do want to look at the CO one though a little bit more. We do have a trigger to buy.
For me, oil is always a bit tricky to do technical analysis on because it is really dependent a lot on macro developments and supply chain dynamics, right? It's not just like crypto that is not fundamentally anchored at all. Like most of crypto is just people trading charts, like nothing much related to the fundamentals. Maybe apart from BTC, ETH, and a few altcoins, but overall it's just speculation and just people trading the charts, right? But when it comes to oil, it's always about some form of macro development that does influence the supply of oil, or some decision from OPEC that influences the supply dynamics of oil, right? So it's always a bit more tricky, and I would be interested to actually see if technical analysis, in this case your Woodspot, would work as effectively as it does for crypto. But this is the main reason why I personally never really tried to do much analysis, or at least not lower time frame analysis on oil, because it's so dependent on news and headlines and all kinds of developments.
It reminds me of like a PAX-G pairing. I don't know if you guys ever traded PAX-G a lot like that. That's kind of what it reminds me of.
If this plays out and you get a pop from oil here, I think it helps with the shorts in the crypto market.
I agree as well.
There's an inverse correlation currently between crypto and oil because of different reasons. I don't need to get into the specifics, but if this starts playing out, I think it's going to put some more pressure on crypto short term.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm interested to see how this pairing plays out well. We could use it as an adverse index almost kind of confluence as well. So so that's that one. Let's take a look at other ones that were pretty strong. So Zcash, I just want to go over really quick because it's kind of what I was explaining with hype, where these impulsive moves, like, you do want to catch the meat of the moves here. Do not get me wrong, which is the reason why, like, on a coin like Zcash, you see how at a clear, like, and I'm going to pull up Fartcoin after this because it's going to look somewhat similar. We had a range of consolidation here. We had this clear pivot, right? This clear pivot line, clear pivot zone, you could say, that where anytime it had a chance to sort of flip this level, it was able to flip in a nice way almost each and every time, unless it wanted to reject. And then we eventually flipped this level upwards here before absolutely exploding in price. So this 4 hour broke out and gave a few 4 hour candles to enter without actually retesting the trend cleanly before flying upwards into the most recent price that it has here. The area that I want to talk about, though, is if you do not catch moves like that, you really don't want to get caught in this candle, obviously, unless you were caught on the long side. It'd be nice. But that's not always going to happen. So in these ranges of consolidation, we're going to have either these lows in price get taken, or you're going to get the highs get taken. And in the middle, you're usually going to get time to make a calculated opinion on which side you think is going to get taken first. So you had this impulsive candle on the 4-hour, and then you had the lows paint here. So people were entering longs, assuming more upside because you have this initial wick paint here, and that's what had happened in price. Then you had this very grindy price action compress here until this channel broke into the middle end of consolidation. And we took this long with our invalidation slightly below this low end of liquidity, assuming that we're going to hold that level. On the 1 day, you're not going to get that low end wick. You're only going to get this low end wick. So people with their invalidation below 312 are most likely going to get blown out before the next move happened. And price eventually came in towards that low, which is almost a full retracement at the beginning of this price action that pushed us up into these highs. That retracement is where you look for a logical long, in my opinion, targeting these highs and more. Obviously, what happened here, I ended up closing my long directly into these highs, literally minutes before this push happened. But this goes in what I was saying with what could potentially happen to hype and really any other pairing that you want to play that has a significant move like that. You're going to get highs painted and you're going to get lows painted in price. And eventually, one of these levels is going to get targeted. And when price comes to the middle, which it is right now on hype, coincidentally enough, at a level that Rego was just talking about, you can make a decision. And I think an even more wise decision than you could towards the highs and obviously towards the lows. So just wanted to point that out on Zcash because I think it's relevant for what can happen in price. We're seeing a rejection right now happen on BTC. I'm really hoping that we get a slip under here. This 73.9 region for me is a region that we need to accept below. We did see price close above and print this flat candle high before it pushed and printed its most recent higher low, obviously at that 65K region. We retested this level already one time. And now we're going to look to come down, push below the 1 day open, and retest it again. The question is, are we going to hold this sweep for higher, or are we going to accept below and then push towards this wick low at 73K? If we start to push towards 73K, there's a chance we hold, and I'm going to look for confluences to either move my invalidation risk-free on the short and flip long, or just evaluate price action to see what it wants to do further. That's kind of what my next step is. I don't know what you guys are looking at intraday on BTC here if we were to reject further.
3,320 to about 72,650. I want to see a reaction there. If not, like if that's not because that's an aggressive bid. If I don't see that, then I'm looking at 71,680 again. That's really what it is. I mean, there's a thin liquidity gap here between 71,700 till about 76,000. In between, it's a bit riskier, but really, like from a technical intraday perspective, I'm seeing a response towards 73,320, all the way down until about 72,600 ish. You could get a response there as well, but that's what I'm looking at intraday, just for now, because 76K looks strong all the way into 78. So I'm not going to fight that. I'm not going to try to trade into that. But I will see if there's a response above 71,680. But really, just to test back towards what I consider the range highs, which is 71,680. That's really the level I want to see. But an aggressive trend, which again I think has all the elements to support that right now. Really 73,320 is what I'd be looking at.
I'm just trading the Monday range, to be honest. So for me, I would look for Monday low. Anything else is just too lower time frame for my type of trading and my type of analysis.
Yeah,
I think it's at around
it's a complete it would be a complete reversal of the whole move we have right now, Rego. I was looking at the same exact thing, DB. I called for that. I shorted a little bit early. I mean, it's in profit right now slightly, but again, just I shorted a little bit early. We ended up popping up towards this wick, and we actually held this wick high. Did we print a double top, or did we sweep it? Did we?
We have a higher candle close than we did back in March 16th, right? So like the body of the candle is higher than the wick that we made. So technically we have a new high.
Yeah.
technical standard, especially on the 4 hour, we have a new high that has been made. But again, that strong level of supply above us, towards 76,000, 78,000. That's gonna be a bit of a bitch. If you want the daily, you'll know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about right away, Rob.
Yeah. For sure. Oh yeah, I already know that level for sure. For sure. This whole level here. This is a giant block.
What I find interesting is the I mean it's not surprising, it's just a bit interesting to see that BTC has pumped pretty nicely in the last few days, right? And we got to these range highs of BTC that I was showing you, which is the diagonal range, right? I'm looking more at diagonal levels. And if you look at something like total 3, it is still at range lows, right? Just a huge discrepancy that we're currently seeing. And just related to what I said about Bitcoin dominance a bit earlier, and if that actually starts playing out, I'm just wondering what would happen with Total 3, what would happen with altcoins and at that level if BTC, let's say, retraces a bit more than $1,000 or $2,000, and if it goes, let's say, to Monday low or even below that. I think it's a very important trend that we need to keep an eye on for Total 3 and the overall state of the altcoin market. I'm not sharing this screen right now. Maybe you have the index in front of you, but we have that support level that has been tested 4 or 5 different times. And I mean, if you're following my corner, you probably know what I'm talking about. But that's a very big level I would look at for the overall state of altcoins, especially if BTC starts rolling over in the next few days. Yeah, so it's that if you draw a line from the wick in February or the candle close in February towards basically today, you can see that it's been tested a few times already, right? So you want to keep an eye on that. And if you start seeing acceptance below that diagonal support area, I think we can assume that altcoin is going to suffer a bit more, especially if Bitcoin dominance starts playing out. So just interesting to me to see that we're talking about BTC, which is at range highs, and you have Total 3, which hasn't moved as much.
Yeah, I'm looking at Total 3 right now as well. I mean, it doesn't even. It's actually a lot. Yeah, like ETH is stronger than this is right now too, which is kind of crazy to me. Like coins such as Hype, I mean Tau is really carrying this
Watching Tau right now,
index.
by the way, like we're in that level that I discussed on the intraday. So you know it's making that deviation. If it pops back above. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but like yeah.
No. You're good. You're good. You're good. Are you looking at that demand zone from the 12 hour?
I don't usually follow the 12 hour, but the 4 hour is in the
Okay,
back pocket for me right now.
I actually really like this level here to get front ran, which is this very tight zone in your level of demand. Obviously, you're looking at this whole level here in
The
general.
broader zone of it, yeah. Not the wick though, just the bodies.
Oh, you don't look at the wicks on these? Oh wow, interesting.
Nah, I stopped doing that because again, it's too wide after. And I think like the bodies are good enough. Sometimes I miss the trade, and sometimes it wicks way lower.
Yeah, like over here, you had a really nice retest before the push up here.
Yeah. Baron, that usually means if we just wick a liquidation level, it usually means we're going to push into it.
Look how perfect it held the top in there.
That looks like a traditional breakdown, like a waterfall breakdown. I mean, it looks convincing. So again, you might get like a relief response here, but I think we're going to push down and liquidate, and that should hit the cluster of orders in this area. Will it be enough? That's something we'll need to see.
Yeah, I agree. I actually really like this level a lot. This inner level here, like I like to look for pockets within these loose pockets. Like if this pocket here from 239 to 229, that's a pretty loose area. I like to look for like a middle end little pocket in there, and I think this 238 to 233 is a lot. I think you could look for some convincing confluence here in a second. CL holding slightly inverse to what's happening right now in the fucking crypto market. Let's see if this pairing is even worth trading. I wonder what the liquidity on this trading is, or on this pairing is. I wonder what the volume is on this fucking thing. Looks like a trash one.
I'm gonna have to step off here, boys. I'm very sorry.
All good, Rick. I appreciate you hopping on. We're probably gonna clear it up there anyway. That was a really good stream. I appreciate you, boys. If you are in my short right now, you hear the confluence. I really like that DB and I are kind of on that patient approach when it comes to a long. I really like that you're looking at a Monday range potential as well. As crazy as it seems, it's possible. We've seen crazier moves. I mean, even if we took a look at the last week's range, that's exactly where granted it was a lot tighter of a level here, right? We pushed this candle and then we printed this candle on Monday before actually sweeping it. So it was a lot tighter. We see a lot of these Monday range low sweep plays hold for higher. And this is what happened in the last week's price action. We swept that Monday low before absolutely engulfing these highs. Again, granted, it's a lot tighter of a move this was than we are currently having right now. If we were to sweep the current range, it would be a lot looser. But we've seen crazier things happen. And I think there is a possibility that we do this. I think that it is a very good situation to get long on. We do have pretty much untapped one-day demand here. We briefly chopped above it before impulsing up. So if we were to retest into that Monday low sweep, you do and you should have good confluence to get long at around that level. I think that's where you be patient for. Yeah, so we pretty much have the same outlook. Rego already left, Rocco. It's just me and DB. Appreciate you guys. Yo, DB, thank you for hopping on, bro. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you for having me, bro. Always a pleasure. And thank you for joining, guys.